the endless propaganda that this empire pushes, that our captured country by Goldman Sachs is pushing. The Marines aren't ours anymore. They belong to the globalists. They're being used to do that. And there's a big push through Private Lynch. Remember, it turned out she really didn't kill all those Iraqis. She cowered in fear. But they ordered her to go along with the lie to try to recruit women as the heroes. We see it in all the movies, like Prometheus coming out, the hero's a woman. And in the 79 Alien movie, she's the hero, and G.I. Jane. And I mean, every movie I go see now, the women are the heroes, the men are metrosexual idiots. This is what we're being sold. And it's not being done to empower women. I'm going to explain this in a moment. But before we do that, I want to show you some excerpts of the video. You can go online and just type in Katy Perry Marine commercial. And her boyfriend is cheating on her. So she shows him, she shaves her head and joins the Marines. And then she gets there and he sends her a letter asking her back. But she says no and tears it up and puts on her war paint with her M16 and is just dominating everybody. She's an incredible warrior. She's got the all blue, unized American flag. Again, she goes in and shows him, though. She goes to the recruiter. Oh, look at that bumper sticker. All women are created equal. Then some become Marines. I mean, this is pure propaganda. So she cuts her hair off. She goes. She joins it. This is nothing but a disgusting recruitment ad for women. You have no future. You know, you're desperate. Well, join us. We'll show you how to be a Marine, because they're getting everybody ready for women on the front line. That's what this is all about. And she gets tough with the other ladies. Soon she'll be like Janet Napolitano or Elena Kagan or Janet Reno. She's got the Janet Reno haircut now. She's going to, you know, be able to hang out, I guess, with Kagan. And it's just incredibly exciting that she gets the letter saying that he's sorry and he loves her, but she doesn't buy it. She tears it up. And now she's out there, you know, going through all the training, and now she's patrolling some country. Now she's an incredible warrior. Now she's in the water choking some guy. I mean, this is all just the most ridiculous garbage the world could ever see. So as they implode the economy, they are now selling women joining the military. Here's the final analysis. Join the military in a man-hating exercise when you're actually going to go into a world dominated by men. And you're going to be basically a camp slave of the men who run the New World Order. Okay? So that's what's going on here. And it targets women loving to put makeup on, so it subliminally puts that in. Again, it shows her choking the man underwater. It's all a man-hating exercise. But when you actually get into the military, you're going to find out that's not what it is. This is the most cold-blooded, sickening, Marine Corps financed, cynical fraud you could ever imagine. And it's about forcing giant numbers of women into the military to actually change its culture and to change the culture of women. Now, I want to give you some background information on what's been done to women in the past. Edward Bernays, who's the father of modern advertising and propaganda, he literally wrote the book Propaganda. Joseph Goebbels, on record, the Nazi propaganda minister, used a lot of his information and twisted it to his own designs. Bernays was the chief psychological warfare expert for more than 20 years, advising the Department of War. He advised them to call it defense. Don't be honest anymore. Call it the Department of Defense, because you're actually going to run giant imperial slaughter operations. He's the guy, they couldn't sell pork bellies because they were seen as trash meat, bacon. So he ran a nationwide campaign saying, women, your husband doesn't know best, you know best. Women all know that pork bellies, bacon, has to be had with eggs. Women know best. So women all ran out and got pork bellies that had only been used to flavor soups and things in the past. You know, throw a piece of bacon in with your green beans to flavor them so that they could jack up the price of pork bellies. Women totally bought it. See, Hitler said, first you get the women, then you've got the children, so follow the men. 80+% of advertising targets women because women make most of the purchases. And if you can get the women It's not that women are stupid. It's that women are the core of the family, the household, and the civilization. And so if you can get women, you've got the children. So follow the men. And so Hitler, of course, got that from Joseph Goebbels, who got it from Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays was hired by the tobacco companies and paid millions of dollars a year to target women, millions in 1920s money, because women saw it as unladylike to smoke cigarettes. And they said, look, half the market is not smoking cigarettes. By the way, they knew back then it was creating lung cancer. They even talked about, hey, this will reduce population as well. I mean, they knew 100 years ago it was giving people cancer. They were doing rat studies over 100 years ago. And so they ran ads in newspapers and on radio saying, don't let men tell you you can't smoke. Show them you're in charge as a flapper. And they paid all the major women's suffrage groups who just gotten the right to vote and things. They said, smoke your liberty torches. And there's photos of women walking around with their cigarettes, smoking them, saying, I'll smoke one if I want. I'm a lady and I'm in charge and I make my own decisions. Now, again, go back down to that poster right there. And again, I want to show people what that says, because these were put up in subways, they were put up at train stations, they were put up everywhere. An ancient prejudice has been removed. And it goes on to say, it's toasted. Lucky Strikes, you show that man you're in charge. Yeah, you show grandma dying of lung cancer, tens of millions of women dead. Boy, you really showed them, didn't you? A manipulative man gamed you hardcore. You like hating men? Look, the truth is men and women at the slave serf level are being divided from each other because they want Katy Perry to teach your little girls that the state, let's go back to that video, that the state is your man. The state is your beau. Under this system, women owe their allegiance to the state. What did another feminist say close to, 90 years ago in public letters? Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, said, we have got to break up these families. We've got to get women working in these factories. How do we do it? We sell them the idea that they're rebelling against their husband by doing this. Miss Magazine, on record, Gloria Steinem admits, she wrote in one of her books, look it up, that she was hired by the CIA to go in and to get women to say, raising your kids isn't good. Being at home, the most important area of the life, isn't important. Go to work. That way they can tax the man and the woman. That way the state gets the children. That way they can break down normal human culture and make the state God. Margaret Sanger went on, look this up, to break down how they had to get women to see men as the enemy. And again, she went on to say, we'll use blacks because they're the weakest group, they're the poorest group, they're the most institutionalized group. At that time, just being 70 years or so out of slavery in the 1860s. She said, what we'll do is just like we had the old system of the women were brought into the house. You're getting the big secret of feminism right now. Just like the house slave was always a woman and the men were kept out in the barn and weren't allowed to read or write, we're going to set women up as the minders of society again. There's actually Roman handbooks on this from 2,000 years ago where they talk about, with white slaves at that time, mainly from Western Europe, you bring in the slaves, you kill a couple of the men in front of the women, you even kill some of the kids, and you tell the women, it's your job to keep these men in line or we're going to kill all of you. And they found that women, believing they were protecting people, would become incredible oppressors and tattletales over the men. And then within a few generations, they started enjoying the oppression and didn't even do it to, quote, protect the men. And I was reading about how they retranslated those Roman documents from Latin into French and then into English by the 1820s or so in the sugarcane plantations. I'm giving you history here. Heavy truth, folks. The sugarcane plantations of the Caribbean, they would bring a ship of slaves in. Already half of them on average from Africa would have died in the trip over because they didn't really feed them from Africa. And they'd get them off the coffin ship, and then they would kill the most well-spoken, obvious leader, just from body language and things, of the blacks that was alive in front of the women. They'd beat their brains out, or they would hang them. And they'd tell the women, we're going to kill all your male children if you don't keep everybody in line. Is that understood? And they found the women would do whatever they were told. So that's where you get the mammy in all the Three Stooges movies and stuff, bossing the black guys around, and in all the old movies that are still, representing what really happened in history, where the black woman is in charge, and she's got the big mammy outfit on, Aunt Jemima, and she's in there telling those black men, you do what you're told. In fact, in this culture got so dominant that my father, when he would pick cotton, and he did pick cotton, even though he came from a middle-class family, he was sent out to pick cotton, that he would go out and pick cotton on adjacent farms, and that they had groups of black people out there picking the cotton. And do you know who the bosses were? Giant, powerful black women. And they were even bossing the poor whites around. Now, that's what my dad grew up in East Texas. And my dad's only, 63 years old, okay? My dad grew up with a black woman foreman telling the poor whites what to do. Now, that is that culture, ladies and gentlemen. And I've read in the history diaries about breeding programs in this country where they would actually single out the most aggressive, largest black women. This goes back 200 years. You can look this up. This is the history you're not supposed to know, to be the dominant people. So that's all Katy Perry and all this is. That's what feminism is. In fact, there's Margaret Sanger to the KKK. Show them that. That's powerful. In fact, we'll give people a full screen of that. I'm begging you, that's a real photo, to look into this now. When your wife comes home and dresses you down and tells you she's the boss, she's reading government propaganda developed in Rome 2,000 years ago to make women the slave masters. They call them the house slaves. They have an obnoxious term when it's blacks. The house, you-know-whats. And so let me expand on this, giving you the deep truth here. That's why in the 60s, blacks were demanding their liberty because they'd gone to war in World War II. They had their own communities, their own wealth. Illegitimacy was much lower than it is now. Crime rates much lower. And they said, Margaret Sanger and others had developed the program. They said, what we'll do is we'll get them on welfare, and we'll tell them, you can't have a man in the house, they'll give you money. And we'll reinstitute the house slave model. And that's what they've created now. And black men are told, just like white men, everybody else, to be lethargic, don't work, be a gangster, just get women pregnant all day, that you're winning when you do that, when you don't take care of your kids. This is now being exported back where it came from with German and Gaulish slaves in Rome 2,000 years ago. Started out with whites. This was done to whites. And now it's being done to blacks, and now they've beta tested it on blacks, and they're rolling it out. So Margaret Sanger, Gloria Steinem, the idiot Katy Perry doesn't know what she's doing. She's just paid by the Marines to do this, so does it. I mean, she's obviously doesn't have, two brain cells rubbed together. I mean, just look in her eyes. She's got one-way eyes. But when you look at the snake eyes of a Margaret Sanger or the devil eyes of a Gloria Steinem, they know how to run savage ops on our families. And they've devastated things. Blacks were, depending on what area, 30% illegitimate, 40% illegitimate. When you are illegitimate, that means you're 3 to 4 times more likely to be in prison or involved in crime. Now blacks are 92% illegitimate. Whites are 50% illegitimate now. Hispanics are about the same number as whites. And you can just see it. Society totally falling apart, totally crumbling. And so I just want to right now say to Gloria Steinem and to the Ku Klux Klan and to Margaret Sanger there with the Klan, who the liberals worship, I want to say you've done a great job. You have really screwed people up. And, of course, they've also got the liberals who aren't really liberals that are Klan members. They've got them doing a great job where blacks get all upset when the media talks about Trayvon Martin and some questionable event to get everybody at each other's throats. So the liberals can pose as their saviors while they're busy killing 52% of black folks before they're born. You can't get black folks excited about that because the media and Wolf Blitzer didn't say so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've gone deeply now into the secrets of what's going on with Katy Perry. Part of me, that disgusting, fetid, anti-human garbage. Let me explain something. Defeating the New World Order starts one place. When men and women understand that a man is not whole and a woman is not whole. Humanity is a man and woman. Humanity is the interface of man and woman. And that's why the system attacks marriage and man and woman and makes it like some bigoted anti-civil rights thing when you say marriage is very important. Breeding between lions is important. Breeding between blue whales is important. Fire ant breeding is important. They're attacking, through a scientific dictatorship, the institution of humanity itself and packaging it as some civil rights crusade. Invade Africa to help the black people. Coney 2012. Manifest fraud. Margaret Sanger and Katy Perry. Women, let's get the men. Let's join the Marines in some feminist exploit. Let's invade and take over the military. You'll show the men. You'll choke them out. This is only one phase right now, but they do want to make most of the peacekeepers women. A bunch of Elena Kagans with machine guns waddling around. I mean, it's a nightmare system, and people need to see it. Women, you've not been empowered by feminism. You've been turned into sexual objects who don't have any time to have any time off or to be appreciated for what you really are. You've been lied to about women's position in society throughout history. You are the society. You are the creatures, the more dominant of the two. You create and grow the next life. And they tell you, oh, that's a horrible thing. The feminists say your baby is a parasite. They don't ever want you to really have a child, so you're empowered through it. And they want your child drinking a bunch of Coca-Cola and McDonald's, bouncing off the wall screwed up, so that you don't understand what your child would have really been. They are attacking us so they can rewrite our society. You're the people buying in to the New World Order's propaganda, and the women are the ones buying in to hating their men and thinking they're getting a leg up on somebody watching MTV they think's their friend. And men that think it's cool to act like idiots all day and act like fools because the TV shows tell them to. You're idiots too. It's time for everybody to get wise to this propaganda, and I'm sick of it.